Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of SAP UI 5 and Fiori training. In the last session in SAP UI 5, we talked about the binding type, first type of binding type called property binding. In today's session, we will go ahead and discuss about how to use expression binding, this, and then the third type of binding called aggregation binding. So let's go ahead and discuss about the same. So let's get started. What is expression binding? So the syntax for property binding, whenever you're binding a property of a UI element with the property of the UI element with the UI control or with the JSON model property, JSON model path, it's called property binding. But what is expression binding? So let's talk about expression binding. So at times we cannot directly or we need to evaluate an expression to produce the value which should go be supplied to the UI element. So we at times we would need to evaluate an expression to produce the value which should be supplied to the UI element. So you are not directly passing the value, rather than you are passing a formula, and that's exactly called expression binding. The syntax for expression binding: curly braces equals to symbol. This indicates syntax for expression binding. What was the syntax for property binding? It was simple curly braces. That was the syntax for the property binding. But now here it's curly braces with an equals to inside. All right, with an equals to inside. And now inside this equals to, you have your condition. And if the condition holds true, what will be the value? Question mark. So whatever is the true case, that will go here. And if the condition is false, what will be the value which your expression produces? So that's what will be in the false side. So maybe you are confused with this. So I'm going to explain a use case, and then we are going to achieve this use case with the help of expression binding. Okay. So the syntax for expression binding, once again, curly braces equals to, inside that there is a condition. If this condition holds true, the system will go to the first block, which is called true block. In this true block, you can return some value. If the condition is false, then system will go to the false block and return the value which you kept in the false side. That's what will happen, right? So let's take a use case. Let's take an example. Now, before we took an example, let's also try to complete this magic exercise, which we tried last time. I've asked you to complete this magic exercise where it should toggle. Every time when we click, it should toggle. It's very easy to achieve, hardly 30 seconds or 20 seconds of work. So before setting this model property Shivang value to true, what you guys have to do, you have to simply check the value first. So first get the value, current state, whatever current state. So you just do a get property via the model. You have to just do a get property via the model. Instead of set property, you just get the value of the Shivang. And after you got it, just put an if condition, current state. If it is equals to true, if it is equals to false, make it true, else make it false. That's what you guys have to do. Are you guys clear? If it is false, make it true. If it is true, make it false. That's exactly what you guys have to do. As simple as that. Yeah. So that's the solution of your exercise. Hardly it was a 10-second of work. I'm not sure why have you guys not worked that out. And now you see Every time I click, it is just doing a toggle. It was as simple as that. No complications. Simple. Simple. Keep simple things simple, guys. All right. Now let's come back. Yeah, many of you have done it. I'm saying for those who have not done it. Okay. So now let's come back and see expression binding. Suppose my requirement is whenever I change employee name to Anubhav. Okay. Whenever I change employee name to Anubhav, the salary and euro, salary and currency should, or salary should automatically increased by 500. Okay. What is the use case? Whenever I put employee name Anubhav, whatever is the current salary, it will increase by 500. Is that clear, guys? Whatever is the current salary, it will increase by 500. That's my requirement. How do you achieve that? Whenever we put the salary or the employee name as Anubhav, the salary value should increase by 500. Clear, everyone? How can you achieve this? So now this is not an easy requirement, so not a direct straightforward way of working on it, right? You cannot achieve with the normal property binding. To achieve this now, we need to bind an expression with the input fields, rather direct binding. This expression also require the read of property value employee name, right? Because you will be doing increment of salary based on what? Anyone? What is the exercise? On what basis are you incrementing salary by 500? Look at the requirement, first line. On what basis you are going to increment? Employee name basis, right? If employee name agar aisa hai to aisa ho, if employee name is Anubhav, then you should do it. So you need here to read the employee name, right, in this expression. How do you read inside an expression binding value from another property? It's dollar symbol, curly braces, and the path of that property. Path of that property you have to use. That path of the property you got to put it inside to be able to do this. So this whole thing is makes it possible. So you have to use the path of the property of employee name to read the employee name within this expression. And how will your expression look like? Expression binding curly braces equals to, and now what is the path? Dollar symbol, curly braces again, slash empstr slash e name. That's my address of employee name, and I'm writing an expression if it is equals to Anubhav. Okay, please increase the salary. Current salary should be incremented. So what is current salary? Dollar symbol again, curly braces, slash empstr slash salary. That's current salary. Increment it by 500. Else whatever is the current salary, just keep it as it is. Curly braces slash empstr slash salary. That's your expression. Clear, everyone? How to write an expression binding with this exercise? We have first put this whole thing as a condition. In this condition, it was needed for me to read the value of employee name. This was your condition. Employee name was required to be read out. Yeah, this whole thing, if you just put it, this whole gentleman, what is this whole gentleman? This whole gentleman is nothing but your condition. This is your condition. And now after this condition, what is happening? We are putting if the condition is true, what to do? If the employee name found to be true, what to do? Return the employee salary increment by 500. That's what you are doing. You are telling system, hey, please increase the salary by 500. Please do that. Increase the salary by 500. That's what you have to do it. Clear everyone? That's what you have to do. Increment the salary by 500. That's what we have to do. Else, just keep it as it is. Just keep it as it is. All right. So that's what we have done by far. Let's go ahead and put this expression and see how does it work. Before that, maybe I want to show you another example, which is more simple one. This may look complicated for you. Suppose first I want to do, if the salary, if the employee name is Anubhav, make the salary field grayed out. Okay. If the employee name is Anubhav, make the salary field grayed out. So which property controls graying out the input field, making it read only? Which property of input field controls? Enabled property. Very good. So where will you write your expression? At front of what you will write your expression? Of course, at front of enabled property you will be writing your expression. So watch out. I'll come back, go to the view, and now in the view you can see this is our application, and I will go to the salary property first of all, and here you see enabled, we have bounded with Shivang. We don't have to do that. We need to now do aggregation binding. So what do I do? What is the syntax for putting an expression binding? What is the syntax to put an expression binding? Equals to symbol. So this is the syntax to put an expression binding. Your condition, question mark, whatever, when what happens when it goes true, and what happens when it goes false. Is that clear everybody? Are you all clear the expression binding syntax here? And now your expression should come. So what I want to do, I want to say, hey, this whole employee name, I want to check what is the value. So this whole employee name gentleman, we are going to bring here in our condition. So before bringing it on, you must have to use dollar symbol. So dollar symbol, my expression value employee name, if it is equals to, that's what we do, equals to single quote if it is Anubhav. Okay, if this is Anubhav, make the input field false, else make the input field true. Are you guys clear? Make the input field false if the employee name is Anubhav. Enabled property will become what? If this expression is true, which block it will go? It will go to the first block. What is the first block returning? What is the first block returning? First block returning false value. So then it returns false value to enabled. What happens as a result when false goes inside the enabled property? What happens when the false goes inside enabled property? It becomes grayed out. Are you guys clear? So if expression is true, it goes to the first branch. If expression is false, it goes to the second branch. In the branch, we are then returning out some value. That value ultimately going to the binding of the input field. Binding of this property value, it's going inside. Are you guys clear with this smallest example? Before going to the difficult one, this is a small dose of antibiotic. When we go to the next level, I'll give you little big dose of antibiotic. Is this small dose appetizable by everyone? Are you guys all clear with this expression binding? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes? All right. Let's move on. So now how do you test it? It's very easy. You don't have to do anything. Just have to go and put employee name as Anubhav and see if the next field is getting grayed out or not. But before that, guys, one important funda fox for all of you. Very important funda fox for all of you. Very important funda fox for all of you. Very important funda fox for all of you. Funda fox today. Very important funda fox. Whenever you want to work with expression binding, so whenever we want to work with expression binding, the SAP UI5 framework needs to be notified needs to be notified. You need to inform SAP UI5 framework so that SAP UI5 framework can understand or can react on the expression binding code. Very important line, guys. Very, very, very important line. You must give SAP UI5 an information. So, guys, when you going for vacation, do you simply go for vacation or do you inform your manager that you're going for vacation? Anyone? Do you simply go for vacation or you simply without informing? You of course inform your manager, right? So what does that happen? Your manager will do the planning accordingly, correct? Your manager will do the planning accordingly. If you're going for vacation, you're informing your manager. So your manager can do the planning accordingly. The same thing happens here. You are doing a binding, a special type of binding called expression binding, and UI5 by default does not support this binding. Okay, it does not support this binding. This is called complex binding syntax. Okay, this is called complex binding syntax. It's not complex by nature, but just by name. Okay. According to UI5, it's a complicated binding. So UI5 will not understand this binding until you inform UI5, until you give a heads up information to SAP UI5. So how do you talk to SAP UI5 framework while you are loading it? Which statement talks to SAP UI5 framework here when you are initializing UI5 framework? Which code is responsible? Bootstrap, perfect answer. Divya has got the right answer. It's the bootstrap code which you had put in index HTML responsible for talking to UI5. So there you have to go and put a special syntax called data hyphen SAP hyphen UI hyphen binding syntax equals to complex. This is very, very, very important. You have to go and tell no, no, not in scaffolding. This should be done in the bootstrap code. Okay, in the bootstrap code you have to do it where you are initializing entire UI5. Without this, your expression binding won't work. Okay, this is very important, guys. इसको भूल नहीं जाना, बहुत problem हो जाएगा. You know what I have done when I was learning UI5? I forgot this syntax. Okay, I forgot putting this guy. And do you know how many days I wasted? I wasted about a week to fix that issue. I was getting no clue. SAP UI5 documentation was telling me you have to go and put this expression binding. I put expression binding syntax, but it did not work. And SAP UI5 SDK was not directly telling me that we have to also do this one in the bootstrap. And then I was crawling internet, talking to people. Nobody could solve this for me. And one fine day, somewhere on some website, in a small line, this line was written that you have to put this into the bootstrap and then only the expression binding will work. This is a prerequisite to make the expression binding work. Okay, it's nothing harm if you directly put it, but you need to understand the meaning of every single line, why this line is required. So if you want to work with expression binding, please make sure that you put this line in the bootstrap. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to come back to the bootstrap, and you can avoid typos. So for that you can do copy paste. I'm giving you full authority to do copy paste to avoid any typo here, because this is going to be very risky if you're not following it proper typos. You see syntax S is capital and this complex is in single quote. This is very important. You must have to put it as it is and now save it. Okay, otherwise you will keep wondering, Anubhav, why my expression binding not working? Anubhav, why my expression binding not working? You have to put this line of code. Okay, you have to put this line of code. Without this your expression binding will not work, guys. Okay, yes, you can also use something. No, this is not for other type of binding, only expression binding. Your aggregation binding and element binding will also work naturally. Not only for expression binding this is required. Other type of binding can also can easily done without this syntax, but it's a good practice that you put this always. And this has nothing to do with type of model. It is okay to put this syntax for anything. It's only valid for binding types, which is expression binding, not dependent on data models, be it OData or JSON. It is specific to expression binding type. If you are doing expression binding, doesn't matter which model are you using, you have to put this line of code. All right, let's come back, and now let's go back and refresh the app and watch out what happens. Oops, it's dumping here. You see something is not right. Press F12. That's your best friend. And you can see there is an error, something wrong in this line. You see, yeah. Instead saw equals to expression binding. Okay. Unexpected, end of curly braces, saw something called equals to. Yeah, so my syntax is probably somehow not correct. So I forgot the syntax. So what I do, I go to SAP UI5 SDK, and I will check expression binding in the documentation. Guys, it's natural that you also forget syntax, so no problem. You should know how to crack the issue. Everybody get some or the other time, we all face issues in our career, right? So but we should be smart enough to crack those issues. That's more important rather than it will never happen that you never face an issue. You will face issue. जो काम करेगा उसी को issue आएगा. Okay, the person who will do hard work, only that person will get issue. The person who is not even writing a single line of code, how will that person get an issue? Okay, so don't think your colleague is not getting issue, but you are getting, because you are doing hard work. That's why you are getting. You should proud on yourself that you are doing hard work. Because of that, you're getting issue. Your colleague is not getting, he or she is not doing hard work. Okay, coming back, expression binding. Expression binding. All right, so let's go inside and check it out. And you can see the syntax for expression binding equals to expression. Let's come down a little bit, and you see here there is an expression, and we can see some example here. They are checking some value, then some expression equals to some expression they are putting. Okay, and let's come down and see some more example. Am I doing some mistake? I think colon should come first before question mark. So question mark should come later, colon should come first. All right, that's what should happen. So let's check it out. See guys here. So now you can see some expression is here. Yes, question mark, the if condition result, then colon, else condition result, and after that there is a space, and then you are ending the last curly braces. This is the syntax of expression. You see we had put this is a condition, question mark, whatever you want to return with the if condition, else return whatever you want to return with else condition, then there is a space, and after that your last one is ending. Let's come back. Did we do some mistake? I can come back and watch out. Yes guys, we have done I think some mistake. So there is a space at the end here. After true I forgot to put a space. Okay, after true I forgot to put a space. I put that space. I save this up, and let's come back and refresh. Oops, it's still not loading. Something I'm missing. Let me just check once again. So here triple equals to will put for condition, comparison operator, triple equals to rather than double equals to, and voila, there you go, it works. Yeah, it works guys. And now you see, since the employee name is Spider-Man, your input field for salary is editable, right guys? Your input field for salary is editable since employee name is Spider-Man. Are you guys okay? Since employee name is Spider-Man, your input field is editable. Now let's change the employee name to what? Anyone? What is our use case? What will we now change this employee name? Anubhav. What should happen when I change this to Anubhav? Anyone? What should happen when I change this to Anubhav? What do you think should happen? it will make the salary field grayed out right now. Okay, Anubhav, and press enter, and voila, you can see after I press enter, you can see the input field is grayed out now. Clear everybody? Are you clear with this example? This cannot be achieved with a simple property binding. Only and only with the expression binding you can achieve this. Are you clear guys with this example? Yeah. Now let's make it plus 500. Let's come back to the plus 500. So what do I do? Where should I change to make the value plus 500 if employee name is Anubhav? Which property you bind the expression to make the value plus 500 in case you want? Of course you have to do with the value property, because you want to change the value. Expression should be bounded to value property now, not enabled property, right? Expression should be bound to the value property. So curly braces equals to expression binding, please. Dollar symbol, curly braces, and then my value, whatever value, slash empstr slash ename. If this employee name, if this employee name, all right, let me just press enter so that we can see this. If the employee name is equals to Anubhav, then please increment the salary here. Okay, else do not change, keep it as it is that clear everyone? So how do you increase? How do you increase? You have to now get the path of salary field. So of course, once again, let's get the dollar symbol, curly braces to address to a path slash empstr slash salary. And I'm saying, hey, please increment by 500. Else, what do you put in else condition? Anybody? What do you put in else condition here now? What do you put in else condition? Of course, simply the salary path you will put, not hard coded 9500. You will put whatever is the current salary in the JSON from your path. So if it is Anubhav increment salary by 500, that value goes into the value property of input field of salary field, and the salary will look like plus 500 for Anubhav, else it will look as it is. Save this up. Let's come back, refresh the page. You will see initially for initial value Spider-Man is showing 9500, right? Automatically it's picking up from the model. But now I go back and change it to Anubhav. Watch out, Anubhav. Press enter. Oops, it did not work. Oops. Did I refresh my page? I'm not sure. Did I refresh my page? Anubhav, enter. No, it's not working, guys. Something is wrong. Let's check it out, the console. Console में भी कुछ भी नहीं आ रहा है. I'm not sure why it's not working. Maybe the reason is because we have used a dynamic binding for this. So let me right now go ahead and comment out this dynamic binding, which we have done. So you can see in init method, I've done a dynamic binding here with bind value. I'm commenting this out right now. Okay, just to check if this is causing a side effect. So this binding I'm commenting out because I'm doing expression binding already in the view. Okay, we're already in this doing this expression binding here into the view. That's the reason I'm commenting it out. Save this up. Let's come back and refresh. And now it's just gonna test this once again. Just put Anubhav, press enter. Voila, there you go. You can see the salary has been incremented by 500. Are you guys clear? Congratulations. That's your exercise. That's your result for expression binding. Am I clear, everyone? How to play around with expression binding? Expression binding plays an important role. At times, you would like a very small expression to be evaluated. You don't want direct hard coded value directly coming from the JSON, your model. Rather than you want to do some kind of processing on top of it, and that should produce a value. That's what exactly we should do. Okay, so this is what is happening over here. Am I clear, everyone? Expression binding. So that's the second type of binding called expression binding. Now, so we saw by far the property binding. So this is a typical example of property binding. You can see this one, this gentleman. We saw a typical example of expression binding. You can see this one, this gentleman. What is aggregation binding? What is aggregation binding? So guys, it's very simple to understand aggregation binding. Aggregation binding is a binding when we connect aggregation of a control of a UI element with the when we connect aggregation of a UI element, not a property. We are not connecting here a property. We are connecting a aggregation of a UI element with the model path. Okay. That's what called aggregation binding. Okay, let's go ahead and experience aggregation binding. So for that reason, to demonstrate that to you, I have to now create a table control. You remember some of you were asking Anubhav how to work with tables. Guys, this is the right dose, this is the right time to give you that dose of antibiotic for table. Okay, that day if I would have shown you the table, you would have got confused. Today is the right time that we can go ahead systematically and learn about table control. So let's go ahead and check it out how to use a table control. I'll take up all the questions towards the end of the class. So please park your questions at this moment, whether be it on expression binding or on aggregation binding. So let's come to APA reference. And I'm going to use a table control now. So I'm going to use sap.ui.table library. And then inside that we have a table control. I'm going to use that. So let's come down. You can see table control. And to demonstrate the example for aggregation binding, there is an aggregation inside table. Can you see these aggregations? So one was property binding we did because we connected to the property of the UI element. And now which one? Which one you will connect? What is aggregation binding? Which one will you connect? Anybody? Which one you will connect now? Which binding I am showing you now? Which binding aggregation? So you will be connecting your model address, model path with aggregation of input, aggregation of your control. So this is one of the best control where I can show you aggregation. So now you see there are a lot of aggregation like columns, context menu, extensions. Okay, and then the most important one which we are interested is rows aggregation. There is an aggregation called rows aggregation. You can see it here, this one. This is actually an aggregation of table control. So we will be creating records in the table automatically from our JSON, and that's the reason that day I had put emp tab. Somebody was asking Anubhav, why did you put an emp tab here? What is the purpose? This is the purpose. Now do you want this array data, this JSON data to be displayed in a control? Which is the suitable control to display this tabularized array data? Which is the most suitable? Can you display this data in an input field? Of course not. You cannot. You cannot display this data in an input field. You need a table control to display these multiple repeating records. Correct, guys? Table control makes the sense here to be able to display this data. So what we will be doing? We will be binding an aggregation binding. We will be connecting this rows aggregation to bring all the records in the table from emp tab entity set. Again, I repeat, we will be binding this rows aggregation, repeating again and again. Rows is what? It's an aggregation. Rows is what? It's an aggregation. That's why it's aggregation binding. We will be connecting rows aggregation with this emp tab. If you see this emp tab, there is this emp tab entity. Okay, this is the entity set. In this you have multiple records. These records will be displayed inside of a table as rows. Okay, so rows is an aggregation. This is row number 0, row number 1, 2, 3, and so on. So anyone who will tell me, let me ask a question from previous class. What is this single thing is called? What is this single thing is called? What is the single thing inside every row is called?
Index.
No, incorrect answer. सब भूल गए, सारे के सारे भूल गए.
Index.
No. What is this single thing called? No. Perfect.
Object.
Raj has got the right answer. Thank you, Raj. Raj is the only one who remember. This is called element. What an answer, Raj. Thank you so much. This is called element, guys. Let me take you back and show you to my PPT. सब कुछ PPT में लिखा हुआ है. Print out नहीं लेते हो आप लोग. You don't take printout and carry with you. If you're taking printout, you're not reading it. You're just wasting paper if you're not reading. Can you see this is called element? Slide number 56. And then later on, some people come and say, Anubhav, you did not taught this concept. We are confused, Anubhav. If you not study, if you not study regularly, if you not focus, then what will happen? You will miss your targets. You will miss your goal. Focus is the key, guys. Without focus, you will definitely miss your target. You will definitely miss your target, guys. So once upon a time during Mahabharat, Guru Dronacharya asked all the students who were learning the arrowing from Dronacharya. Dronacharya said, there is a bird sitting on a tree. Can you please aim the eye of that bird? Okay. So there is a bird sitting on a tree. Can you please aim? So this is a tree. On this tree, there is a bird sitting. Okay. So there is a bird sitting on this tree. And can you please aim into the eye of this bird? And then you have all the students who were sitting near the Guru, Dronacharya. And then they say, then before making this decision, Guru Dronacharya asked, what do you see there on the bird? What do you see on the tree? Then one student say, sir, I see tree. Sir, I see leaves of the tree. Sir, I see clouds. Sir, I see earth. I see you. All these people are answering different things. But only one student, the student name is Arjun. Arjun was the student name, and the student says, sir, I only see the eye of this bird. I don't see anything else. You see the focus, kind of focus Arjun has. That is the reason he was undisputed king of war. This is the reason. Because he's so focused that he only and only see the eye of the bird. He don't see anything else. He's completely isolated from the distractions and focus on the target. You have to be focused on the target, guys. I know there are lots of distraction in our life, be it a mobile phone, be it family responsibility, be it your manager, be it your colleague. Try to spend less time with the colleagues who waste your time. Try to spend less time with colleagues who has no respect of your time. If you seeing your colleague is pinging you on Skype, आजा चल चाय पे चलते हैं, which means that guy has no respect of your time. If you think somebody is taking you all the time along with you, whether to pick a courier, whether to go for a tea, whether to go for a lunch, all the time that guy is calling you and wasting your time, that guy has no respect of your time. No respect of your time. And you yourself has no respect of your time. You are wasting your time. Stop going with those people at least for 2 months, guys. You have to be focused on your goal, focus on your target. If you really want to achieve big, you have to target big and you have to focus on that. Without focus, it is impossible to achieve it. Tomorrow I will, or today I will teach you element binding. Now you will ask me, what is element, Anubhav? Because element is already covered here, right, guys? It's already covered here. You have to focus on it. Very important. Okay. All right, let's come back and let's see how can we now achieve the table control. First of all, so watch out here, the table control. It contains collection of columns. You see, a table has collection of columns. It's an aggregation. Once again, each column is of type column class, right? So you can see here columns aggregation. So this is collection of column. You can see 0 to n, collection of column. So each of these is a column class. So you can see here column aggregation. It's a collection of columns 0 to n. Multiple columns can come inside a table. So this is now an example for aggregation also. And later on we'll see an aggregation binding also. So let's go ahead and create. You can also click on this column class to see what properties each column has. So we will be creating multiple column objects and putting all those columns inside our table. Yeah, so let's look at the properties. These are properties of the column. Let's look at the aggregation. These are all the aggregation of a column. So there are two important, once again, column also has aggregations. You can see aggregations, and there are two top aggregation. One is label aggregation, and there is another aggregation called template aggregation. These are all two aggregations of a column. Okay, so now let me go ahead and see creating an aggregation. So I'm going to come back. So I will be creating aggregation here. So let's go back to the view, and let's create a table control, guys. Just above the form, I'm going to create a table control. And guys, as you remember, we are using sap.ui.table. So let's include that library over here, sap.ui.table library. This is a good practice. Even though you don't include, nothing matters. Earlier in JavaScript use, it was mandatory to include the library here. Okay, it's a good practice if you include it here. All right, let's come on the top and give a namespace for that. XML namespace T, and I can say sap.ui.table library. So T means table library I'm referring. So T colon table, that's my table control, guys. So are we ready to go and look at the UI now just by putting a table? Yes, why not? Let's go back and look at the UI, refresh the page. And voila, there you go. Can you see a table on your user interface? Everybody, are you able to see a table? Are you able to see a table? Are you able to see a table? Yes, why not? Is this table make sense for end user? Is this table make sense for end user? A table without any column, a table without any row, right? Doesn't make sense for end user, correct? So we will be adding now columns. What is columns actually for a table? Technically, as per UI5 SDK, what is columns? What is columns as per UI5 SDK? What is columns? It's an aggregation. Perfect answer. So you will be adding multiple columns inside this table, and each column has two important properties. One is column label and one is column template. Okay, so column label is something which comes on the top in the header. That's your column label. All right, and column template, what is the template property? Sorry, template aggregation. Template aggregation will tell you what type of column it is. Have you seen in conventional SAP screen a table containing a button? Have you seen a table ALV or a table containing a button? Have you seen a table containing a checkbox? Have you seen a table containing a radio button? Have you seen a table containing a nice picture? Right? Have you seen this kind of different variety of columns? How it is possible to add a checkbox, a button, an image inside of a table? It's with the help of template property. The template property of each column drives the type of the column. Are you guys clear? What is the template property of each column does? Template property of each column drives the type of the column, whether the column look like a button, an input field, a label, a checkbox, a radio button, a image. Are you guys clear? So it's like field catalog in ABAP. Absolutely. So in the field catalog, you can control the type of the column. Similarly here, we can control the type of the column inside of a table. Are you guys clear? Is that clear, everyone? What is template property of a column? So each column has further aggregation. One is a label aggregation, and one of the, so let's draw a quickly a pictorial view of this table which we're creating. So this is maybe your table, and this table has column. So you'll have columns in the table. So this is column. Column is an aggregation once again, which has a label aggregation and which has a template aggregation. So template will control the type of the column, whether it is label, text, it's a title, it's an input field, or it's a radio button, it's a checkbox, it's a button. What type of column you want? That's controlled by template property, template aggregation of column class. And label aggregation of column class controls the label of the column. Is that clear, everybody? Inside of a table you can have similarly multiple columns like this, and these will be repeating. Each column has its own label and own type. Am I clear, guys, how to create a table? So let's add a couple of columns to this table now. So I'm going to come back, and I will be using here, coming down to a table, and we will be using columns aggregation. Is the columns aggregation default aggregation? Let me check. So I go back to the table and check which is the default aggregation for my table. So I come back to the table class. Let me just come back to the table class. Yes, there you go. And we can just come down and see columns aggregation kidhar hai. Let's come to columns, and you see columns aggregation is a default aggregation. So if you're putting something inside, by default it will be part of columns aggregation. So it's not mandatory to put a columns aggregation, but good practice is you put it. Okay, you put it so you never get confused. So T columns aggregation, inside each now we have column class. So once again, SAP UI table library, this is first column, guys. This is your first column. Similarly, you can add multiple columns because 0 to n cardinality for columns aggregation, right? Each column further has a label aggregation. Let me just check if L is small. So I go to column class now, and inside the column class I go to aggregation, and you see there's a label aggregation, and then there is a template aggregation. All right. So let's come back. So T template aggregation. All right. So that's your one single column. Now within the label aggregation, what is that we can put? So label can take any UI control. Okay. Any UI alternate type. You see, alternatively, you can also put a string inside. Okay. You can also put a string inside, or you can put also a UI control. So let me put a UI control called text control, which comes from SAP M library. So I'm going to put an inside of this a text control. So maybe just do a little bit of formatting to make it comfortable for you. So this is how your label aggregation. Aggregation के अंदर दूसरा object. Always you get an object inside an aggregation. So like a columns aggregation, you have got an object of column. Label aggregation, you got object of a control, which is text. And now inside this I can put my, let's say, employee number. That's my aggregation. And in the template you will put what type of column is this. This is going to be a text column once again, and the text property I will be putting it little later, and that's my column number one. Are you guys clear with this one column? A column has two aggregation. The first aggregation is label aggregation. The second aggregation is the template aggregation. In the label aggregation, I have given a UI element called text to display the title of the column. Inside the template aggregation, I have given a text property, text control once again to give the value of that column. Is that clear to everybody? Yes or no? How to create a column inside columns aggregation of a table? Just by following simply UI5 is step by step, line by line, no copy paste of code. No copy paste of code. Coming back, let's create multiple column. Now we can do copy paste because we understood. So let's create maybe 4 columns or 5 columns. So I'm going to create 5 columns. So I'm going to put employee number, employee name, employee salary, employee currency, and then we will put employee gender. So these properties I had put it inside. Let's come back and refresh our app. How many columns do you see now inside a table when I refresh? How many columns? You should see 5 columns in the table. Voila, there you go. You can see those top five columns as part of your table, as part of your user interface. Perfect, guys. Superb. Are you guys clear how many columns we created? 0 to n cardinality, guys. 0 to n. Columns was an aggregation. 0 to n cardinality it was. We have added multiple columns inside of our table. Superb. Is this table still complete? Now it's time to bring the data, right? Now it's time to bring the data. So would you write this data yourself line by line? Would you write a hard coded data inside this line by line? Would you write, let's say, imagine tomorrow your ERP system Mara table has 6,000 materials. It has 6,000 materials. Will you read the Mara table manually and fill this table manually with 6,000 records? Anyone? Will you go read the Mara table every single record and fill this table manually? Of course not. Impossible for human. Impossible for any human on the planet to do that. What is that you got to do now? To bring the data automatically from the model, from your data source. What is that you got to do? Perfect answer. Rahul has got it right. We got to do a binding, guys. And since you are doing with what is that you're trying to create? What is that you're trying to create? You're trying to create rows. Absolutely. You're trying to create elements actually. You're trying to create rows, and for that you have to bind it with the rows aggregation. And since it's rows is an aggregation, rows is an aggregation, what it becomes aggregation binding. It becomes aggregation binding. Since this is an aggregation, it becomes aggregation binding. Are you guys clear what is aggregation binding? Yeah, are you guys clear what is aggregation binding? Since you are connecting with rows aggregation, this is aggregation binding. All right, let's go ahead and see that now. So I'm going to come down and I will show you how to do aggregation binding. So now let's come to the table control. The aggregation belongs to this rows here. And now here you have to put the entity set name, curly braces for binding, entity set. What is your entity set name in the table? What is your entity set name in the JSON for which is holding multiple records? Which is holding multiple records. It's employee tab, right? So once again, who will tell me the address of employee tab? Who will tell me the address of employee tab? Who will tell me the address? Start from the top. Follow my rules. Follow the rules of the game. Slash emp tab. That's it, guys. That's the address. Every curly braces is a slash emp tab. Are you guys clear? What is the path to bind the whole table? Where all the records coming from? All the records part of this emp tab. We are just taking this address of emp tab in which under which we have all the records. Are you clear, guys? Yes or no? Are you clear, guys? Yes or no? emp tab. Yes. Let's go ahead and see. So I'm going to come back and we will just come and check it out. So we will be doing this binding slash emp tab. We are done. This is aggregation binding. Are you guys clear? Aggregation binding, is this clear to everyone? Is just the name. Binding remains as it is. It's just that you're binding with rows, and rows is an aggregation. This is called aggregation binding. Clear, everyone? Aggregation binding. Now guys, there is a catch. There is a catch. Let me refresh the app and see what happens. So you see right now no data. Refresh, and you see some records are coming, but we don't see data in the individual cells, right? The records are coming, but we don't see data inside individual cells. What do we do? What do we do, guys? Anyone? What do we do? What is that we have to do? We have to now tell that within this aggregation, within this emp tab, inside each of the element, which property is going to supply data to which column, right? You have to tell the system which property will supply data to which column. You have so many properties. How will system know that e name property should go and sit in the emp name column, right? System will not know, right? System will not know. So for that you have to do a property binding at each template level. Okay, so now come to the template here. Inside this you have to put curly braces and put e number, whatever is the property. So first column employee number we have to get. So this emp number, which is a children, it's a children of employee tab. That is what you have to put here. Is that clear? Why are we putting this one? How will each column know that which property it has to take, which is the children of employee tab it has to take the data from? So PMP tab has children's. Which children will supply data to this first column? It's EMPNO. You see, this is a children. EMPNO is a children, right? It's a children. So this EMPNO is supplying the data here. That is what you have to tell it. So EMPNO here, curly braces. Next is ename. Then next comes is salary. Next comes is currency. And next comes is gender. Do we have that field? I don't know. We do have or not. Let me just check. Yes, we have gender field also. Just going. Are you guys clear? The property binding. So text is a property of text control. We are doing a property binding of text control. Is this clear, guys? So now the children's will take the data also from those children's of the table. Is that clear to everybody? So aggregation binding at the parent control level, and then the property binding at the child control level. This is a property. Text is a property. Rows is an aggregation. So at parent control level, you are doing aggregation binding. At child control level, you are doing a property binding. Now, guys, there is an interview question. This path which you see, there is a special name of this path. So whatever path you have used here, so one path we have used for aggregation binding. This path we have used. This path is called what? And there is a path used here. This path is called what? So there are these two paths. So one is at this level, this particular path, you see EMP tab path. This is called absolute path. Okay, it's called absolute path. And this path here, it's called relative path. Okay, why it is called relative path? Anyone? Why it is called relative path? Because this EMP in number has no existence without its parent, right? It's in relationship to the absolute path. It's a children of EMP tab. That's why it's called relative path. Are you guys clear? What is absolute path? What is relative path? This is an interview question. So how do you define absolute path and relative path? Don't forget this concept. Very important concept. Absolute path and relative path. What is it? What is it? What is absolute path and what is relative path? Very important interview question. Absolute path and relative path. So when we do aggregation binding with parent control, example here is table. The path which we connect or path which we use in aggregation binding is called absolute path. What is the relative path? So when we do connect the child elements with the binding, the path which is used is relative to the parent path and is called relative path. Clear, everyone? What is absolute path and what is relative path? So in SAP UI5 framework, these are all the two types of binding paths which does exist. 100% interview question, also certification question at times. Absolute path and relative path. Absolute path, when we do aggregation binding in SAP UI5 control, parent control is connected to aggregation binding path, and that's called absolute path. This is the path of typically a root node which has lots of children's. And then within those children's, when you're connecting with the property binding, the UI child UI control with the child path of the absolute path, which is relative to the parent path, is called relative path. Interview question, guys, very important concept. It's just a concept level. It's not, nothing has to do with it, but it's just concept level. These are just names of those paths which we, the way we address them. And now save this up. Let's come back and we are ready to see the action. refresh the page, and boom, there you go. All the values which you have inside your data model are now popping up. Congratulations, guys. This is the answer for all your questions which you asked in the past. What is the purpose of EMP tab? Can you show us a table? What is aggregation binding? What is absolute path? What is relative path? How do you do the binding for the table control? How do you bring the data? How do you create multiple columns? How do you dynamically create the records with the help of aggregation binding? This is all we have learned in today's session. With that, I'm done with the session. Time for your questions, but one by one. So I will take up first from the chat window. Why small box uh, in first column? This is a checkbox. It comes by default for every table control. This checkbox comes automatically. Okay, it comes automatically. We don't have to put that. It comes automatically. So that's the checkbox. It comes automatically. You don't have to put it. It comes automatically. You can remove it, however. Just check out. That's an exercise for you. Explore the UI5 documentation and find out, can you disable the checkbox column which is coming by default in the table? That's an exercise for all of you. Exercise for all of you. Explore the SAP UI5 columns, 5 table API reference, and find out how to remove the how to remove the first checkbox column from your table. That's an exercise you have to explore. You have to do hard work now. Nothing like free lunch anymore. You have to do hard work to find out this. Okay, let's see how many of you can crack that up. Very easy actually to crack. Hardly 1 minute of work. Okay, now we need dynamic values in the table control in real time. Yes, of course, either your values will come from SAP server, be it Mara table, VBAC table, or you are right now putting it from the JSON. In the JSON, it's a model actually. Idea is to get the values from model. Idea is not to hard code the values, rather get the values from model like we did for input fields, guys. That's what was needed. Anubha, I have a question. The 4 binding types you are teaching now, can it be used all models? Yes, absolutely. All these binding types which I'm teaching, it can be used with all models, be it like resource model, JSON model, XML model, or OData model. And that's the main goal, guys. Going forward, we'll do OData model. There also we'll do the same binding actually. Okay, we'll do the same binding actually, and we will see the similar results with the OData. Now learning OData model becomes easy for all of you. Easy, very easy for all of you. But please hold on. We will come to that chapter that day. I will show you how to use it. Next question in the chat window, can we use global variable instead of hard coded? No, we cannot use global variable within the binding. It's not allowed. You cannot use global variable here. What is multi-label aggregation under the column? So Divya, actually the table control is very rich, like ALV. Have you created any ALV in the ABAP? So ALV comes with thousands of options, but you may not have ever used all the options, right? So similarly, SAP UI5 table control or any control you look at, it's very rich in nature. It has lots of features. Okay, so maybe one of the feature is enabled by the help of that aggregation called context menu. Suppose this is used for right click. When you right click, you will see some context menu, right? On right click of a table, extension, footer, no data. What is the text for no data? So like this, there are a lot of different properties here. Toolbar, if you want to bring a toolbar for table, you can use this. So lots of features are there. So for those features, these properties and aggregation are there. So right now you should be focused only to create a table. Later on in your company, when they give you requirement to, let's say, add a toolbar above the table, at that time you can go and add a toolbar for the table. All right, so these are the different options which we have for the table control, and you can use it. Okay, now how do you make dynamic columns in a table? So to add a dynamic columns, rather than now putting these columns directly, you have to use an API called table control object dot add column. So you see columns is an aggregation. There is dynamically an API. There must be a method called add columns. So if you come to the method list, you must see a method called add column. You see this add column. So get the table control object, create a column object, and add the column dynamically to the table. You can also do that. So using add column method of a table control, you can add a column dynamically to the table control. I'll show you towards the end of today's class. Maybe let me address all the questions. If the time permits, I will show you how to import your full zip project in my web IDE. It's very easy. I have shown it already in the previous class. I'm not sure why didn't you understand, why didn't you focus on it. Right click on workspace, simply say import from file system, and show it the path of the zip file which I'm giving you in the project, and that's it. Click on OK. It will get imported. This was already covered in the past class. Please look at the second class video once again where I've taught web IDE. Anubhav, how do you get these values from backend to expose in the table control? So these values are not in the backend right now. These values are statically placed in our JSON model. You see here, this is a JSON model. We are bringing these values from the JSON. So if I add another record to my JSON, it will automatically appear because I'm doing binding. So let me add another column, another record here. So let me just do that. So I'm just come here, curly braces, and I'm just going to say here 1005, and I say Sonam, and I've just made it as 85,000 euros. Smoker is false, female, single, 5. So that's the value I have added here. And watch out now, Sonam will be part of your user interface. So right now it's Sonia, Vikat, Bilal, Jessica, and Sayed. Let's refresh up, and now you should see Sonam over here is coming up. You can see. So that's the data. The more data you will get, more values will automatically be picked up and shown on the user interface. Understanding is here important to understand what you need to focus on. Focus is data
Hello.
is part of model, and whatever data is in your model, it should come to the view. That's the understanding you should have. That's it. Later point of time, we will unplug this model, and we will connect this model with an OData model which is bringing the data from your real ERP system. I will simply unplug this. I will unplug my washing machine from here, and I will plug my washing machine here. So washing machine will start taking data from this socket. Model is like your socket. You're taking electricity for your washing machine. You unplug from the here. You can plug it here. Your washing machine will start running once again. So your ultimate goal is to run your washing machine. Not is that where you're getting the electricity from. Whether you can get electricity, the data in this case from the local static JSON model, or you get it later on from an OData model which is bringing you the right data from a real ECC system, right? That's all you can do
Yeah,
it actually.
Anubhav,
Yes, please.
yeah, can you go to main view XML?
Hold on,
Remove
there are
small.
questions in the chat window still. Let me answer them first. How do you show the table with alternate row color? For that, you have to apply custom CSS on your table. There is no direct feature, direct support by SAP UI5. You have to apply custom CSS class. Please note this question. If you want me to show the answer, I will show it to you in maybe an extra class. Let's do it an extra class on this weekend for all of you, and this question we can take it up in the extra class. So is that okay to have extra class this weekend, guys? Do you all agree for extra class where I can show you some more features, more extra things? It's okay if you guys don't attend. Extra knowledge, if you wish to attend, that's good. If you don't wish to attend, that's okay. You will not lose anything. Anyway, the recording will be available for that class for you. So most of you are saying yes, I like your enthusiasm. So let's plan an extra class on this weekend, Saturday, and it will be timing will be 8 a.m. India time. Okay, so usually it's 7 a.m., 1 hour ahead of current time. 8 a.m. morning India time, we'll have an extra class for 1 hour. I will plan that, and in that I will take up this question, and any a special question you guys have about Anubhav, how do you do this, that, these, that, all those things, we will look into it in that extra class, and that also I will publish on the YouTube as Anubhav learning series as part of your basics of questions. Okay, but before that, give me a promise that you guys will come back prepared with whatever I teach you till weekend. Till weekend, whatever I teach you, you will come back prepared. Give me that promise. Okay, you have to give me that promise that whatever I have covered, whatever I've taught, be it property binding, aggregation binding, tomorrow we'll see element binding, and then we will look at resource model, XML model. So promise me that you will come back, you will prepare yourself for that extra class, come back with preparation, and then that class will be more beneficial for you. Now time for your questions on the audio line. Please go ahead one by one. Venkat, please.
Yeah,
Anu,
Anubhav.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have small doubt in main.view XML.
Yes, please. Let's go in.
Yeah, in the earlier class, we discussed about the index, the address of the employee number like this, right? So how it is taking now? We did not give the index number.
Which index number? Okay,
Uh,
index. Okay, all right. So what is happening, guys? The aggregation. This is why it's aggregation binding. It's not a property binding. So what system does? System first go and contact the entity set, which is the employee table entity set. This employee table entity set has 0, 1, 2,
okay,
3. These elements are there inside, right? These elements are there. And now what system does, it automatically, that's why that's the benefit of aggregation binding, it automatically takes one by one each element and creates a clone as per the template. So it creates a text field dynamically, and it puts the first
okay,
record, 0th record employee number in here. Then it creates the next element, sorry, next clone for next column. And similarly it creates column, all the columns dynamically like this, all the columns one by one. And then for repeating, for each repeating element, let's say element number 1, element number 2, element number 3, it will create the clones accordingly. So second element, it will create like this, a clone. Third element, it will create a clone like this. Fourth element, it will create a clone. So system will do this cloning automatically. You don't have to worry, because guys, think about it. This index is never fixed. Imagine this data coming from Mara table. Can you tell me every time how many records coming from Mara table? Is it possible for you to tell how many records coming from Mara table? Never fixed, right? It should be dynamic, so system takes care of it for you. You don't have to worry about indexes. Okay, I just told you there an example, just in case in life, ever in life, somebody asks you to address specifically one of the element, one of the record. In that case you would need that path. Otherwise you don't need that path. Aggregation binding has this power of cloning your elements automatically. For every element it gets from the model, from EMP tab. In this case, EMP tab is giving 7 records or 6 records, whatever. 7 clones, 7 elements are cloned, and they're creating these columns automatically, these records automatically. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about indexing, because you can never bound to index also. Vaishali, next you.
Anubhav,
Mhm.
will the syntax differ from any of these models,
No,
or it will
that's
be
the
the same?
beauty. Now, since you learned the aggregation binding and property binding, when I go to OData chapter, do you know how much is the effort to connect to real SAP backend service now? What do you think is the effort, guys, to get the data from real OData service, which is talking to Mara table or VBAC table? What is the effort? Zero effort. Yes, zero effort. If you guys understood this, aggregation binding, property binding, absolute path, relative path, done, guys. Nothing is required. I will just teach you basics of OData service, and you guys are ready to create a productive application. You don't believe me? You don't believe me? Trust me, guys. Let the time come. You guys will be mesmerized that this learning will help you long term, completely reusable, no change in the syntax when you do binding with JSON model, resource model, XML model, or JSON model, or OData model. No change in the syntax. It works beautifully with OData also. So this is a long-term learning for you, not a
Mhm.
short-term learning. It's going to benefit you all the time.
Thank you, Anubhav.
All right.
So, Anubhav, I have one question.
Yes, please.
So, in
Your voice is gone. I cannot hear
I
you.
see column aggregation. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So in the sap.ui.table control, I see columns aggregation and I see rows aggregation. But we have not used the rows, but we have used the template. So that is little confusing.
Okay,
Okay, rows. Oh, okay.
so
Oh,
rows we
you
have
you
used that.
use rows.
We are creating rows
Yeah.
dynamically, but columns statically. Yeah.
Okay.
We are fixing the columns at design time only, but rows are getting created automatically. You see, we are using rows.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Right? Ask these questions to yourself and try to find out the answer. You will get the right questions then in your mind. Okay.
Okay.
Now the
Yeah.
question may come, Anubhav, can we also create these columns dynamically? Why not? You can. Note this down. Who will note it down? Vaishali, can you note it down? These two questions for our weekend session. Will you be there on weekend, Vaishali?
Yeah, I'll be there,
Okay.
Anubhav.
So you will be there. Note down two questions. One question is how to create columns dynamically in the table. Second question is how to get alternate row color for your SAP UI table. These are two questions which I will take it up for extra session on the weekend. I am so sorry guys, I can't address them in regular session. Otherwise we will lose the pace. I have to cover at least bare minimum for all of you in 40 hours. The time is limited. Maximum I can stretch to 45 hours. Okay. Our course, entire course. If I extend this course for 1 year, the course is not beneficial for you also, and course is not beneficial for me also. Both of us will lose. Our idea should be to learn, catch up the next thing, learn, catch up the next level. Many people come and say, Anubhav, the video access which you have is only for 8 months. Can we have a lifetime video access? The intention here of that person, what I guess is that person don't want to learn UI5. That person want to stay with UI5 forever, which means it's like अभी जरूरत है तो UI5 सीख रहा है and want to stay with UI5, don't want to grow further, just want to stay lifetime with this technology UI5. Guys, your attitude should be learn, move to the next level, learn, move to the next level. Why you want to stay all the lifetime long with one single technology? Your goal should be learn, move fast, learn, move fast. This is the time of fast mover. Nobody will remember people who are slow. No one. Give your team, give your manager a different, altogether different experience. You have to be show speed. People want instant speed, just like you guys want पिज्जा इन 20 मिनट्स. अगर थोड़ी देर पिज्जा वाला लेट हो जाता है तो कितना गुस्सा करते हो आप पिज्जा वाला पे. You become so angry if your pizza, if your food delivery is late, if your Amazon parcel is late delivered, you are getting so angry. Why? You yourself want speed, instant value out of it. You always want speed in response, and you expecting your manager to wait for 6 months to get one simple Fury app out of you. How fair is that? How fair is that? Everyone, nobody has time in this world now. This is a fast moving world. People want instant response, instant value. So for that reason, that's the reason why am I saying you have to be in an attitude of learning fast and moving ahead with the next level. वरना एक जगह अटक जाओगे. You will not see a growth. If you want to see a growth, you have to get into the mode of fast movement. Fast mover. You have to become a fast mover if you want to see a growth in your career. If you want your salary to exponentially increase, you have to run faster. If you run faster, your salary will run faster than you. Okay. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow's session, very interesting. We're going to see different variety of columns. So today we just created text type of column. I'm going to show you input field. I'm going to show you creating rating indicator, checkbox, image control inside a table. We'll look at element binding. And then finally, we will talk about the next type of model, XML model, and then we'll move to resource model, and then we'll move to formatter concept, and then we will move to Fiori UX. So slowly and steadily we are progressing good. I think we are already behind the schedule, but that's okay. One or two sessions extra, I don't mind. But let's take this weekend session for extra doubts. तुम्हारे पास जो डाउट है लेके आओ. Okay, whatever doubts you guys have, leke aao, bring it on, only for the completed topics. Only, again, request to you, only for completed topic, no heavy dose of antibiotic, because I have to cater to all of you together. Sometimes you are already a champion in UiFi, you bringing an advanced doubt, you can bring it, I can answer, but it will be bad effect on other student. Not everybody is an expert like you. Okay, so it will have a bad impact on other student. I don't want that to happen. I want equal sunlight for all of you. That is the reason I do not expect heavy dose of antibiotic. Get me only the doubts till the time we cover the topics, only on those topics. With that, it's a wrap. Thank you so much, Vaishali. Keep it noting down. I will ask you on the weekend session, you will be the moderator for that session. I will ask you all these questions, open questions which you are noting down, and I will answer one by one all those questions. With that, thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you.